So, I don't know about you guys, but I really like finding games that have expansive worlds, interesting mechanics that interweave with each other. Basically, just huge, complicated simulations of reality. And I like to take those and then try to break them and push them to their absolute limits, which is exactly what we're going to do in this video with Watch Dogs Legion. We're going to push the world to its limits and see just how much of this living, breathing world is actually living and breathing. We're going to jump right into it, but I, of course, want to say thank you to NVIDIA for offering to sponsor this video and power it using their new GeForce Now system. My PC is a little too weak as it stands for these new 2020 titles, so when they reached out offering to let me use GeForce to actually power all of this through the cloud, it blows my mind even still. Naturally, I said yes. So all of the footage, everything we're going to be doing today is going to be done through GeForce Now, just so you know. It's pretty straightforward on the dashboard. You got all the games that you could play as long as they're in your libraries of respective platforms. I've got Legion already. You hit play and then you're off to the races. It's kind of ridiculously easy. And boom, we're in the game, like rocking and rolling without any install or extra load times. Like you're just you're good to go. Like, I don't know about you guys, I love this stuff. I think it's so cool. So this is pretty early on in the game. There's not much that you can do at this stage because they're still introducing everything to you, but it's important to note that every single character here has a background, has some place that they're going, some activity that they're doing. They have relationships with each other, at least in theory. We're going to push that to the limits here in just a minute and see whether or not that's actually true or if it's just marketing, mumbo jumbo. Because a lot of these types of games, I think they can either just boast and claim a bunch of stuff and then they make it so complicated and difficult to verify that you'll never know whether or not it's true, or it's real and it's just so vast and complicated that it just happens to be really difficult to verify as true or not. So we'll see. As if it wasn't clear enough, the reason that I chose this lady for my first recruit is actually because she has access to this super fancy car that's apparently like 200,000 pounds in the game. And if you have her as your recruit, you can actually summon it and use it whenever you want, which is pretty cool. Also, just to be completely honest, the reason that I wanted to do this video with NVIDIA GeForce Now was because I can't use RTX or ray tracing at all on my old 1070 that I have in here with my 7700K. It just doesn't work at all, even at 1080p. So to see that I can actually stream through the cloud ray traced reflections on high quality, I'm kind of baffled that I can stream a game at a better fidelity than I can run it on my own hardware. But that's 2020 for you. Like it's crazy. I think it's so cool. So this is our little hub base. We're going to do a couple little things here and then we're going to jump into the open world and really push everything to its absolute limits. Okay, so here we are out in the open world of Watch Dogs Legion, and this is really the bread and butter of the game. It's why it's called Legion. Like it's in the name. You're going to be going through the world talking and looking for people to join your legion, and each person has a different skill set, different things that they do well or that they could be used for. Some missions will need somebody who's really stealthy. Other missions will need somebody that perhaps has better access into construction sites. So you want to find somebody who works in construction so that they already have the outfit. They can walk in there without being noticed. That type of thing. And it's not to say you have to have somebody recruited with those abilities, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier. For instance, if you have an Albion recruited, or rather Albion employee recruited, if you're trying to go into an Albion controlled area such as this, because they're going to be able to walk through these security gates and walk past other guards without just like attracting much attention at all. That's what you want. You can still do it guns ablaze and just run in there, go crazy, but it's just not a very good idea probably. But here's what I really want to test. So you see there's guys like this Ellery, maybe that's boy, maybe that's girl, I'm not sure. Megaphone, tear gas, bandana, so he's immune to gas attacks, which is cool. This chick, she has a pipe. That's cool. This one also has a pipe. This one, evasive driving, can escape pursuits faster, but you see the red thumbs down. That means that she actually has a negative view of DedSec, so she's not likely to join up. It's kind of interesting because she's protesting Albion right now, but I guess she's one of those that's like, no, Albion's bad, but DedSec, I don't know if they're the right solution. I'm not sure. That's interesting. Oh, look at this. This guy, Brad, a burlesque dancer, fined for purchasing illegally imported shoes. That's how I want to go. And it's also a shopaholic and a takedown thief. So every time he takes somebody down, he steals a little bit of the currency in the game, which is actually kind of useful. Now, realistically, recruiting any of these people is probably like a 20 to 30 minute process, especially if you're playing on a harder difficulty and especially if you're playing with permadeath, because you're going to be going through everything way more carefully. So with it being a 30-minute process, you find yourself being fairly picky with who you choose to recruit. Yes, you'll get rewarded some different characters and recruits as rewards for missions and things that you do throughout the main story, but for the most part, the best characters you're going to find are going to be the ones that you actually seek out, find, and choose to engage with. For instance, I believe the game has you recruit a lawyer roughly 5 or so hours in, which helps you get other teammates out of prison early if they happen to get arrested during a mission or something. But if you go and you seek out your own lawyer or a barrister, just like Nancy here, you could actually find yourself at an advantage over and above everyone else because you got a jump on that, which is pretty cool. Now, I have tested that you could actually recruit somebody like Delroy here, who is, by all notes and measures, completely opposed to DedSec, somebody that you shouldn't mess with, somebody that is very unlikely to get saved or for you to work with, but he actually can be recruited. It's a little bit trickier, it's a little bit harder. It's going to turn like that 20-30 minute process of recruiting him into probably a 45-minute process, but it can be done. So hopefully you're starting to kind of see the depth of what we're dealing with here. It's not as simple as just hit a button, recruit somebody that looks interesting. It's an actual process. You're going to be intelligently and critically accepting and rejecting different candidates. And it's all because they allegedly have different skills, different schedules, different things that make them unique. And when this works, it's actually phenomenal. You can have a recruit like Mandeep here, who I just ran across on the street, who was voted most charming in a self-run poll, owns a personal sports vehicle, a Tark 536, a beautiful car in the game that goes super fast. I actually really like that car. I wish it were available for purchase nowadays for not an insane sum of money, because I think it's sexy. And he's also famous, which means that when you're walking through certain areas, potentially trying to be fairly nonchalant or low profile, he'll randomly get noticed by people and actually cause a bit of a ruckus. So he can actually be a bit of a liability if you're going in stealth wise, but if you use him to try and, for instance, create a distraction, he could actually be really useful. Again, this is when gameplay is at its best, when you start to like really think through all of the different possibilities, all of the different things that you could be doing with different abilities, different skills, different tools at your disposal. That's when a dynamic gameplay system is peaking. Oh, we might have already broken it. I found a teammate of mine who's this guy. I got the collector's edition of the game, and so he came with the extra expansion characters and stuff, so you start with a few team members. This lady is somebody I recruited and started with, but this guy is somebody that you can actually get too. I think it's like $5 or something. It's by no means necessary, but you can get it if you like his costume. Except when you pull him up, that's definitely not his face. Like, definitely not his face. And just like that, we already broke the game. Good job, guys. We pushed it to its limit. I mean, all things considered, I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to things like this in a game of this size and scope and ambition. That's a pretty small glitch to come across. And I was notified by Ubisoft that there's a massive patch coming November 9th that's going to address a lot of these little details here and there. So if something like that bothers you or something, just know it's on its way. It's in the process of getting fixed. Okay, let's do something simple. We've got somebody right here. I pissed off the cops, so they're coming after me. But we have somebody right here who's just standing in the world doing nothing. If we look at them initially, they don't have any sort of negative feelings towards DedSec or towards me. They're just impartial, don't really give a crap. This would be something you could recruit pretty easily. But what happens if I do something that's like kind of a dick move, like just kind of upsetting, like mess with him, jump around, kind of give him the spoopy spoops? Does that tick him off? Let's see, let's look. Nope, he looks to be pretty impartial. Let's say I pull out my non-lethal weapon, point it at him, nothing's happened yet. If I shoot him in the leg, now, yeah, he was attacked by Chantel Timmermans, and so now his opinion is negative. He's got a red thumb, which means that he's going to be way harder to deal with. That's good policing. Okay, let's look at somebody like Billy here. Billy, he's a good patient, shorter injury recovery time. That could be useful if we're running and gunning into someplace. So let's say I add him to my recruit, so I save him there. Now he's in my list of potential team members, so he's been saved and I'm considering working with him. If I wrong him now, shot to the ankle, he actually is pretty pissed, and now DedSec failed to help them with their problem. Things get a little tricky. And in my testing, all of this applies whether you accidentally run into somebody while walking down the street, if you happen to steal their car just trying to get to a mission objective, or if you're driving your car and you accidentally hit somebody with the car, you could find yourself seriously in trouble. So probably the coolest moment that I've had so far playing Watch Dogs Legion was actually when I was in the process of recruiting an individual. He had a brother that was running around the world. I could see it in the list of, important things about him, but didn't really think much of it. What's the big deal? Well, I was going through the motions, working to recruit this guy because he was going to be really useful, an Albion employee with a machine gun, lots of armor, the whole get-up, so he'd be able to sneak into places. Seemed like a really good fit. I was driving and then got in a little bit of a kerfuffle with the popo, and I ended up running over some people that were walking down the street. Just straight up mowing them down. I'm not proud of it. I'm bad at driving in games, so it happens. Eventually I got to safety. I went about my merry way, and I pulled up the menu to look at how this recruitment was going and what else I needed to do, and pretty much all of my work had been undone. And he actually had 2 red thumbs down telling me that this guy was going to be next to impossible to recruit, and if I needed somebody like this, I really should just go find somebody else. And I looked at the notes, and it turned out it was because I ran over his brother. Yeah, his brother was walking down the street when I was running away from the cops, and I accidentally ran over him. He died, and then his brother became so pissed about it that he backed out of working with DedSec and completely shunned us. That was a moment that I was blown away by. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of this because it happened at a very tight-lipped preview event for the game a couple weeks ago, but by far, that was the most amazing thing that I've seen in any Ubisoft game in recent memory. It was a moment that just blew me away, where I was like, if that's what's possible here, if that's the level of intricacy that we're dealing with, we have something pretty amazing on our hands. And I mean, say what you will, the game has a couple bugs, as we've already seen in this video. It has a couple quirks, and something of this scale, you would expect that. It's not to, excuse it. It's just to say that it's kind of expected. However, to see a game of this scale deliver on an intricacy that seemingly insignificant is pretty amazing to me. If they just randomly cast aside all of the NPCs that randomly got mowed down when you were trying to drive down the road and accidentally drove on the wrong side of the road because you're from America, even though this is set in the UK, so you're accidentally mowing down people even though you don't mean to. If they just discarded NPCs that got hit like that were only on screen for a tenth of a second, realistically, I don't think anybody would notice. Nobody would probably even care. And maybe they occasionally do that. Maybe that is a system at play in the game that I just don't know about. But what I do know is that I ran over this guy's brother with my car without even realizing I had done it. Not intentional at all, just going through the world. He was walking and I hit him. That permanently affected the outcome of a relationship that I was developing. That character could have been my main for the rest of the story. That character could have been the one that I used to go through all of the final cutscenes, to go through everything. He could have been my one and only. But he wasn't, because I hit his brother with my car. And that really is something that I think is just amazing. So obviously there's a lot of depth here, and the systems are pretty robust even when you start to push on them, as we've already seen in this video. There are, however, a couple of quirks that I have noticed. For instance, if you come across a character, usually they're going about their day-to-day life, doing something. This guy, Dere, something like that, he is heading to Lambeth Palace to read the news. So let's follow him, see what he's doing. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I spent a lot of time doing this before I started filming the video, because I wanted to make sure that my conclusion was verified. So I'm actually kind of interested to see where this guy ends up going, because I think I know. Now, this is one of the things that Ubisoft has talked a lot about, that every single NPC in the world can not only be recruited, but they have their own schedules, they have the things that they're doing, their own motivations, relationships, everything. And of course, we verified that they have relationships, and those relationships can taint and be altered a lot based on your actions within the world. However, whether or not the schedules are a robust feature is something that I think leaves a bit to be desired. For instance, we've been walking, you can look at the in-game clock on the bottom left-hand corner, for just a few minutes at this point, and he's already changed his motivation. So his schedule was to walk to the palace. Now his schedule says that he's heading to a nightclub to exchange bribes. So we're going to keep following him and see if that changes once again. The reason I'm going to keep testing this and pushing this is because I think Ubisoft probably was designing a lot of these characters to have what appeared to be a schedule, at least up front. It shows some activity that they're taking part in as you quickly walk by them, and you assume, wow, that's cool. They're walking to the park. They're going to see their brother. They're going home to read. They're going to the club to party, like whatever it may be. You look at it, think, oh, that's interesting, and then you move on and you don't think about it. Whereas I'm not that kind of player, so I'm actually going to push it and see if he actually follows through and does what he says he's going to do. Because, I mean, you better believe it. It's a big difference between randomly popping up little events that a character could be partaking in and actually going through the motions of having characters and NPCs go from location to location, planning out their day so they get there on time, leave on time, get to the next place on time, and that schedule adapts and changes based on how their day-to-day life goes. If they normally went to go see their brother, what happens if you hit their brother with your car? How does their schedule change at that point? So he's still headed over there. He doesn't seem too distracted or worried about me randomly following behind him. So that's good. Oh, and this is going to be the kicker. This is what I thought would happen. This is the subway system. This is effectively the fast travel hub for all characters in this world. You can use the subway system, or rather, I guess the tube, as it's called, to travel, and so can the NPCs. And now you see he's gone. I didn't let go of the button. He despawned. This is how Ubisoft actually handles the schedule system. And this is what I've seen in every single character that I've tested. They'll have a couple of things that they're set to do, and then they'll actually walk around randomly and just end up going to the subway system where they despawn and you lose track of them. And so it begs the question, like, if he was actually going to a nightclub to exchange bribes and do all of this stuff. It would be amazing if we could see that, but Ubisoft would then have to have nightclubs set aside where he could do that. He'd have to meet up with a character that also, because all characters have backstories, have personalities, names, everything, they'd have to have another character to meet him there, set aside the time, have him travel and meet him there on time. All of that would have to be planned out pretty in detail. So really, this is the sleight of hand that Ubisoft is able to pull with this, because it looks really amazing. Like, wow, they have their own schedules, they do their own thing. But do they? Nah, not really. You can show that they do. You can kind of make the player interact with them in ways that make it appear as though they have a schedule. But whenever the player starts to really pay attention and see what they're doing, you can just have them go to the tube, despawn, and you don't have to worry about it. Because even if the player happened to fast travel to the same tube exit or subway exit, whatever it's called, I don't know, have them exit in the same area that this person allegedly left and arrived at, they would probably be long gone by the time you got there. So you would have completely lost track of it. And maybe it is the case that you can actually track NPCs from subway station to station, different locations, and they're going back and forth. You just have to play the loading game properly, get the load screens timed out properly. I don't know. I've tried it and I can't get it to work. What it seems like to me is that Ubisoft just despawns the characters and then they'll pop up randomly in the world as you continue exploring later on. So all told, the game is actually pretty damn impressive. I'm kind of blown away at just how in-depth they've made a lot of these systems, how well they play together. And yes, while there's a little bit of sleight of hand going on with some of the other features, such as the schedule and the different things that you can do with characters in the world, I still think it's damn impressive. I think there's so much here that it just blows me away that the game even runs and functions properly. Is it a masterpiece? Probably not. But is it a pretty astounding technical achievement? I do not see how you could say anything but yes. And speaking of technical achievements, again, thank you to the sponsor of this video, NVIDIA. GeForce Now is what's been powering this whole thing. It's phenomenal. I actually use it at home on my bed every single night to play games. I freaking love it, and I'm blown away at the performance every single time. I've used other cloud streaming services, pretty much all of them at this point without naming names, and I've got to say I think GeForce Now is probably the most impressive, stable, and in terms of quality, it's off the charts. I mean, seriously, where else are you going to be able to stream to your phone or to your computer or a laptop or your NVIDIA Shield? Where else are you going to be able to stream to those devices ray-traced gameplay running with DLSS at 60 frames a second? Like, I don't even know. I just knocked something off my desk. The reason I don't know is because you actually can't get that anywhere else. Like, it's kind of a NVIDIA thing. They do it, no one else does. That's why it's so awesome. If you want to check it out, head to the link in the description box or the pinned comment below. You can sign up for a free account where you can play your games that you've already bought for free. You just stream them through the cloud off of NVIDIA's servers. Like, it's amazing how easily it works. You just sync up your Steam library, your Uplay library, Epic Games library, everything, and if that game is supported on GeForce Now, you can play it. Like I said, the free account is free. You get an hour gameplay session at a time. You can play for an hour chunk, and then once that time expires, you just restart your chunk and move on to the next one. You might have to move servers, so there might be a little bit of a load time, but it's pretty seamless, all things considered. Or if you want to upgrade to the Founders Edition, which is only $5 a month, which is what I've been playing on here, you actually can use ray tracing, so RTX is fully supported, and you get 6 hours with the games at a time before you need to reset your time, and you have priority access to the servers, so your latency, everything else is going to be reduced. At the very least, it's worth checking out. Again, links in the description and in the pinned comment below. I'm pretty impressed with it, and hopefully you're impressed with it too, because I think it's pretty amazing. But that's all from me. Let me know what you think of Watch Dogs Legion and everything else that's going on in the gaming world today in the comment section below. I love you all more than you could possibly know. I really do. We've got some amazing stuff coming out on the channel in the next few weeks and months, so make sure to subscribe for that. But with that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.